Xavier. Xavier.
Conversations about life, got conversations about death, got conversations about building a nation, about gaining knowledge of self. Not here to deceive ya, we'll make you a believer. Come build a nation with conversation, with prophecy and Atiba. Conversations between comrades. And welcome to another episode of Conversations Between Comrades. Conversation between people who are trying to elevate and nation build and bring about something better in society, in the world, you know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, again, I'm by myself, still waiting on Comrade Atiba to get everything together. But, you know, it's all right. It's all good because I'm still here with you. And as long as you here, then, you know, we're going to be all right. I don't know exactly how long I'm going to be on the broadcast today. You know what I'm saying? I guess it all depends on how much engagement I get with the people. So, you know, we'll see how that kind of goes. Y'all engage, which y'all usually do. Then, you know, we'll be on long as we got to. But otherwise, I'm probably gonna be short and sweet, you know, talk about a couple of things. Man, get on out of here. But yeah, man, it's June the 1st, Gemini season. I'm a Gemini, birthday coming up in a couple of weeks, y'all. Yeah, a couple of weeks. I'm getting up there, gonna be hitting 50 in about a year, y'all. About a year, you know, this is gonna be my 49th birthday, so I'm excited about that. But anyway, so what we want to get into tonight, we want to talk about tonight. You know, I figure that I really didn't know what I wanted to talk about. And by the way, you know, if it's ever like a topic or anything that y'all want to discuss, you know, just hit a comment or, you know, you hit me up in the inbox or whatever it is, and we'll talk about it. Because, you know, sometimes I just go here and I'll be like, okay, whatever's on my mind is what we're talking about. So I said, you know what? Let's deal with this thing called trauma. Because that's a really important topic. Something that's really important, especially within our community. Is something, mental health in general is a really important topic. And by the way, everybody out there who listening to this, you know, drop a like, drop a comment, let me know who out there so we can converse and we can have a conversation between each other and have a back and forth, you know, because like I said, this is conversation between comrades and y'all my comrades, especially since my other comrade is not with me. But yeah,
mental health is something that is extremely important within our community. And it's something that's misunderstood. It's something that's neglected. It's something that we suffer from a lot. But, unfortunately, not enough attention is paid to it. Not enough resources are allocated to it as far as our community is concerned. Not enough focus is placed on this issue. And we suffer from it a lot. A lot of us don't even understand what it is, don't understand how it affects us, don't even understand the historical significance and how, what history plays, how that plays into what's going on with our day-to-day lives. But really, when you look out in our community, you can see the results of it all the time. You can feel the results from it from within you. And you might not even realize what's going on. Every time I say mental health, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're, I don't like to say the word crazy. I don't like to say that. But that doesn't necessarily mean you dealing with some kind of psychosis or schizophrenia. Mental health, that's broad, and there's a lot to go up under that umbrella. And it affects us in a lot of ways that we don't properly deal with, but we suffer from the consequences. And we see that in our hood, in our communities every day. We see it all of the time. I start out with this story. So, like, my little brother, he's a musician. He's a bass player. He actually plays in a rock band. It's like a white rock band. I go to see him, all the time. Most of the places that he plays are places where you have like a lot of white people going. So, I go and I check his band out, my sister and me, and, friends of the family go. We're pretty tight family. So, we support whatever we got going on. So, yeah, I go to see him play. It's usually a lot of white people. And usually it's a good time. Have a lot of, a good time. It's a lot of people, especially within our community, they'd be like, well, no, I can't be around white folks. I can't be. I'm not really like that. You know what I'm saying? That ain't really how I'm wired to think. I'm down for my people first and foremost. But my master teacher told me you got to be able to blend in any type of environment. You got to be able to deal with any type of environment, that's necessary, especially if you're talking about a revolution or whatever it is. So, like me personally, it don't bother me to be around white people or whatever. I can be around anybody. I can be in any neighborhood, in any community. It does not bother me. So, like I said, I go to his concerts. I go to his shows, and and I noticed that just observing European people, it's a certain difference, a different type of vibe that you get when you're dealing with, places with like a lot of European people. A lot of times we hear people, especially our people, say, I don't like being around a lot of black people. I don't like being around us. And we have this negative perception and negative mentality of ourselves. And it's like, you hate to be around other black people. We know people like this. I'm not like that. As a matter of fact, for the longest, when I hear people say this, it used to just bother me, it irked me. I'd be like, man, get away from me. I don't want to be around you because I love being around my people. But if I'm gonna be objective in a critical analysis, when I actually started going to like my brother concerts and just observing European people, I think I was like, okay, I think I understand where that thought process comes from. And it's not necessarily 100% about I hate black people, but within our community, there is a certain trauma that we have experienced and suffered through. And it causes certain situations to kind of pop off more than it should, more than what's normal. Because I know there's a lot of times you can go to certain places, in these places. I don't want to start perpetuating or getting into stereotypes, but at the same time, I want to be honest and I want to be real about this. There's a lot of places that, you know, we can go where something will happen and it'll set one of us off. You know, things will go from 0 to 100 just like that. You know, we'd be honest, this happens. Now, usually, if you're in a conscious community and you in a conscious environment, you don't see this type of behavior much. But if you just in other environments, then it can, you know, it can happen. I mean, in fact, on the Boondocks, they call that a nigger moment. You know, I made a joke about it. It was funny. It was funny because all of us recognized what they was talking about. They said a nigger moment. Basically, a nigger moment is when rational or two rational black people, whether man, woman, and child, usually for whatever reason get set off and things get all crazy and violent for seemingly like no reason at all. Well, actually, what you're witnessing, what you're going through, what you're seeing is the response to trauma. When you see some simple resulting to a big old altercation, a big old fight, a big falling out, these type of things not only affect us in our social environment, it affects us in our organizations. I know a lot of y'all can relate to this. You've been in an organization with people who mean well, who have their heart in the right place, and we all, you know, feel like we're working toward the same goals and objectives. And then something happens and we fall out. And the whole organization crumbles. And the goals and the objectives are out the door. I know we can relate to this. I've been in several organizations like this. Now, if you really on point with your revolutionary cadre and your political education, then you'll understand that there are mechanisms built into your organization that really deals with these type of things. But the reality is the response to the trauma that we deal with is really affecting us in many, many, many ways. And it's really detrimental to us. And it's something that we got to get a grip on. First of all, we got to become aware of it. We have to become conscious of it. Because what tends to happen is we just respond to it from an emotional standpoint without really understanding what's actually happening. We just have an emotional response to things. We just say, oh, Lord, we can't never do nothing without niggas acting a fool. You know, we have that type of mindset without understanding, what's going on. Now, back to the story about, you know, my brother and me actually being in social surroundings, our social environment with European people. I give you, you know, a prime example. I was downtown. I was with a friend. We was listening to a band at a bar downtown. And mostly white people was there. Mostly white people. I think it was a black band, but mostly it was white people in the audience at the bar or the club or whatever. This is what happened. It was this white dude there. He was drunk as hell. Annoying, getting on everybody's nerves. You know what I'm saying? Invading people public, private, you know, space, getting in your personal space. And for the most part, everybody's just kind of ignoring them. Now, I'm kind of a chill person. You know, I got a line that you don't need to cross, but for the most part, I'm chill. Most things I just let it brush off, you know, without letting things, making things escalate and things going to places it don't really have to go or don't really need to go. So, when I encountered them, I was just pretty much the same way, just brush it off. All right, buddy. Yeah, cool. Yeah, we all having a good time. Yeah, whatever. And that's kind of how it was. And I think, me and my friend, we was like the only black people there at that particular time. Then it's like another black person came in for a second. And like about 5 minutes, boom, it was like, dude was like, it was on, dude was ready to kick his ass. Now, this ain't a criticism of the brother. This ain't a criticism of the brother because like dude was disrespectful. He was invading people's personal space and all that. But when the brother snapped, it's like I understood because I recognized what was going on with the brother. I could feel what he was coming from when he was speaking. Because the brother was like, damn, you ain't gonna disrespect me. And I was like, it was just like a light bulb went off. I was like, shit, this is a trauma response. Because in America, as a black man in America, we feel like we are constantly being disrespected. We feel that we are powerless. This is a trauma that black men have. We might not even realize it. Most of us don't realize it, but it's part of our traumatization. So when he just responded like that, it's like, damn, I recognize where he was coming from, but I looked at it at a deeper level because I realized, like, okay, everybody else didn't respond like that. And I heard, the person who was with me said something dumb. See, that's why we can't go nowhere. Niggas want to act the fool. And I'm like, nah, come shut the hell up. That ain't even what this is. It's like something deeper going on with that. And all it was a trauma response. When dude was acting all drunk, being overly friendly with everybody, this brother felt disrespected. This disrespect that he was felt, whether the disrespect was real or intentional or innocent, it was a trigger for him. It triggered something within him. It triggered a trauma that he was dealing with. It triggers a trauma that many of us deal with. And he just set off, just went off. The only person in the whole, building who did that night. And I was like, damn, that's what it is. We have an experience in America that has disproportionately made us victims of trauma. Therefore, when you're in your hood and in your community, certain things are more heightened. Things are that's the reason why we suffer from more anxiety, high blood pressure, hypertension, along with the diet. So this is like a major problem within our community that we don't deal with, especially when you understand like what trauma is and understand the dynamics of trauma and the historical relevance of trauma. Because see, what you have to understand is trauma is something that is generational. Trauma is something that can be passed down from generation to generation. Trauma can affect you on a cellular level. When you are traumatized, it can change, it can alter your DNA. Alter it in a way that you can pass it down to your children and your children's children. So in essence, trauma can actually cause a generational curse. So, think about our history in America. And that's called epigenetics. That's the science behind it. It says, trauma can actually alter your DNA. You can look it up, learn about it, study it. But think about the history of our people in America. Think about the hundreds of years of trauma that we've suffered through. Think about the Middle Passage. just coming over here. Not even that yet. Think about on the shores of Africa, Akiva land, being kidnapped or sold into slavery, going to places you don't have the slightest idea where you're going. Many of our ancestors believed they was going to get eaten. Think about how traumatizing that boat ride alone is. Think about the Middle Passage. Think about, this part of the enslavement period that nobody talks about. We talk about, cotton fields, the lynchings, the whippings, the family separations, all of these things. But it's a part of that Middle Passage trip that nobody really talks about in history. It was a stop where our ancestors encountered an individual called the slave breaker. Now, the slave breaker's job was to take a human being who is a free person, who has a free mind, body, and soul, and to break their spirit, just like you would break a horse. That was their job. In other words, you would beat them, torture them, do everything in your power to break their spirit, that spirit of resistance that that person had. Because you have to realize, when we take it from Africa, we were a free people. We were free. So in order to make us suited to be enslaved, they was like, okay, we got to take them through a process of breaking, and all type of cruelty and things you cannot imagine happen to us during this process. A lot of things. But just imagine the trauma that was developed through that whole process. And once we got here, like I said, the family separations, the murders, the lynchings, the enslavement, the raping. Just imagine you a man, you got a wife, you a man, you got a wife, and your wife can be raped at any time in front of you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And when I say nothing you can do about it, when you stood up, you was murdered. You were killed. Think about that. I want to say what's up to brother Isaac. How you doing? Good to see you checking in. Good to see hear from you. Miss Susan Rogers. Hey, girl. So good to hear from you. All right. But like I said, this is the history that we have endured. And if we understand that trauma will alter your DNA and you can pass trauma down to your offspring, think about the ways in which our ancestors' DNA was altered through trauma, through epigenetics. Think about the 400 years of trauma in which we have inherited. And people always wonder, well, why are Black people so susceptible to certain diseases? Why are our immune system seem to be the most compromised? America has been extremely detrimental to our health. But we don't talk about these things. We don't talk about it. Hey, you notice anytime you see one of these white people snap and go to the grocery store or go to a school and just shoot up everybody. One of the first things they start talking about, well, what about mental health? Mental health. But you never hear anything about mental health when you in your own community, when you're talking about the Black community and somebody's been shot or some crime is being committed. We don't talk about mental health then. Mental health is not even a defense used for Black people. They never sit and contemplate, well, maybe this brother, maybe this sister, maybe this individual has been going through some stuff. Maybe what happened was a trigger, a trauma response. Maybe all of this violence that we seem to like we love to complain about. Maybe the trauma that Black people have faced and continue to face in America. Maybe this violence is a manifestation of the trauma in which we've been dealing with. See, and that is another reason why we got to properly deal with reparations, because reparations is something that has been in the news a lot. You know, that conversation is getting louder, and it's going to get louder and louder and louder and louder. But like I said, like I always say, we have to be careful, because if we're not careful, then politicians, these people in power, will say, okay, look, we're going to give you this much money. We're going to give you this much money. Every Black person in America, you're going to get a check. And if we're not aware, if we don't even understand what reparations is and why it's necessary, we just looking, oh man, I want to give me a check. I'm going to give me a check. You know, however much it is, we'll end up accepting something and selling our own self out. Because see, a mere check is not going to repair the damage that has been done to our people. You got to realize, when you look within the community, you're looking at a damaged people that is in need of repair. We got to be honest about this. Now, I'm not talking about, well, Black people inferior, Black people. No. First and foremost, the reality that we are still here today and we are thriving and still moving forward is a sign that you come from a great people, that you come from a strong people, from the strongest people on the planet, because we're the original people of the planet, which all other people came from. Be clear about that. Be clear about that. Because when you analyze our history and see how many different ways that individuals have tried to wipe us off of this earth, all of the things that we have been through, it is amazing that we are still here. So don't get it twisted about what I'm actually saying. But what I am saying is, due to all of the trauma, of all of the hardship and all of the drama that we have been through in this country, it has damaged us. And we need to take a serious look at the damage and have a critical analysis on how to repair this damage that has been done to us. Because we have to deal with the trauma. We can't pretend that, oh, nothing happened. Because that's what they say. You know, when it comes to the trauma and the things that has happened in America, the European power structure, the white power structure says, get over it. That's in the past. That's old stuff. Now, we are the only people. We are the only people on the planet that they do that to. We're the only people, well, the indigenous people also. Yeah. It's Black and brown people. The only people that they take a look at the trauma and the crimes that have been committed against us, and they tell us to, hey, forget about it. That's in the past. That's old. That's old. Jewish people don't do that. They say never forget, never forget, never. And even if you start to bring up the ways in which they themselves have participated in our Holocaust, in the crimes against our people, when you bring that up, they'll be like, no, you're being anti-Semitic. No. Never forget what happened to us. Come, let's go to the Holocaust Museum so you can see what my people suffered, how my people suffered. I know that's a terrible Jewish accent. I don't know Jewish people talk like that. But we're the only people who has been repeatedly disrespected and tortured and tormented and exploited and oppressed and murdered and committed genocide upon, and just told to get over it. So much so that today, in certain places, they won't even allow us to teach about it. We can't even teach about our history. We can't teach about our struggle. We can't teach about the trauma that we have experienced in this country. Because, well, it makes white people feel bad. Just imagine that. Just imagine that. Imagine, let's just flip it up. If you told a Jewish person that, in Germany, the place in which they were, Hitler tried to kill all of them off. Hitler tried to exterminate them. Just imagine you're in Germany and you tell a Jewish person, well, no, I'm sorry, we can't teach about what the Nazis did to you because it makes the Nazis feel bad. So just get over it, forget about it. It's in the past. How far would you think that would go? You know, because like, just analyze what happened in Nazi Germany. Just analyze that. Look at, how, after the war was over, World War II, what did Jewish people do? One of the first things they did was they denazified, and when they took Germany through what they call denazification. So all symbols of the Nazis were destroyed. Not only were they destroyed, but they were banned. They were made illegal. It was illegal to have a swastika. It still is illegal to have a swastika in Germany. All propaganda destroyed, made illegal. They created educational programs to deprogram all of the Nazi propaganda. You had to learn about it in school. They created movies that taught you what they wanted you to learn about Nazis and the true nature of like who Jewish people are and all of these things. This is how Nazi Germany, or how Jewish people responded to what happened with Hitler in Germany. Like I say, you had the denazification of Germany. Now compare that and contrast that with what happened to them in America. Compare and contrast that with what happened to us in America. Well, after the Civil War, they basically said, well, I'll tell you what, you know what? Okay. What do y'all want? What do y'all want, black people? They had a meeting with some of our black leaders. It was black ministers in the South. What was this? Don't get me to start lying. But basically they had a meeting and they said, well, what do you want? And our ancestors said, we want some land, and we want, a couple of things to support us with this land. And we want this land to be away from y'all. We don't want y'all to be coming in there because we don't trust y'all. So, okay, this is what I'll do. We'll give you land. And they granted, every black family 40 acres. 40 acres. And they started issuing this land out. Some people started getting it. And we started building. And the roots of nationhood and self-government started to take hold. And then they said, oh, no, I'm sorry. We're going to take it all back. And that's what they did. They took it back. And these black people who were building on their own land had to go back and work on plantations of their former slave masters. and it ushered in a system that was basically the same thing as slavery. That's what they did. But not only did they, like in Nazi Germany, they made it illegal for you to have all type of Nazi propaganda, Nazi symbolism. Well, white supremacy propaganda spread. White supremacy symbolism spread. Like years later, you had the resurrection of the rebel flag as a symbol of white supremacy. You had all of these Confederate generals and heroes of the Civil War given gigantic statues. You have the emergence of the Ku Klux Klan. You have movies that were created that was white supremacy, that spreaded white supremacy propaganda. The first blockbuster movie ever created, Birth of a Nation, was about the rise of the Ku Klux Klan. So, I mean, we can go on. We can go on with the history. But ever since the beginning of chattel slavery, up until now, June 1st, 2023, we have been suffering from trauma within this country. It's taken different forms. It has evolved. It has mutated. It looks different than it did in the past. It's taken several mutations. But we're still dealing with it. So what I'm saying is we have 400 years of trauma on our shoulders that we're dealing with, that we have to deal with, that we have to understand, that we have to deprogram ourselves from. So the whole idea of reparations, and the root word of reparations is repair. We have to understand the root word of reparation is repair. And we have been severely damaged in this country. We got to know that. We got to understand that. And we got to properly deal with that. So, you know, the first step in dealing with that, and really dealing with anything, is becoming aware. Becoming aware of what's going on with you, what's going on up in here. Becoming aware of your triggers. When something happens, just like that brother downtown, and he just snapped, went off. You know, becoming aware of, like, okay, what just happened? Why am I so angry? Why did this make me so upset? And that might be a bad example, because in reality, he really actually had a right to be angry. But being that he was the only person that reacted like that, it just made certain things obvious. It made certain triggers obvious. And I just kind of understood, like, damn, this was going on, not only in this situation, but it goes on every day in our community. We're being triggered. So something little happens, something that we interpret as being disrespectful to us, triggers us, and it causes a trauma response, because we've been traumatized within America. And it causes us to lash out. That's why so many of us, you know, so much senseless violence happened within our community. So much senseless violence happens within our community. So now ultimately, we're going to have to take control of our community, because that's the only way we're going to really be able to stop the continued trauma that we're facing. Because it's really hard to heal from trauma when you're still being traumatized. It's really difficult to heal from trauma when you are constantly being traumatized. So, but the first step that you got to do is you have to become aware of what's going on, become aware of what your triggers are. You have to have like a certain amount of introspection. Was that the right word? I don't know. But you have to go within and see, what's actually going on up here, because most of us are on autopilot. We're living our lives on autopilot and we're not even understanding, what's going on. We don't understand we're being triggered. We don't understand it. You know what, man? I just stopped by the snack machine, looked at the snack machine, and it triggered something in me and said, hey, go buy a snack. Go buy a snack. And you just did it. You just followed. You're not even hungry, but you went and you bought a snack from the snack machine, and you don't even know why you did it because it's a trigger. Something triggered you to go do it. That's what a trigger is. It is something, external stimuli that tells you to do something. It tells you to do something. Now, if you have been traumatized, then it can be several things that can trigger you. And the triggers is something that reminds you of the trauma. That's what the trigger is. It is something that reminds you of the trauma. So like a lot of times when you in the hood or on the street or wherever that is, and something happens, somebody step on your shoes or somebody say something the wrong way or somebody raise their voice to you or however, whatever might happen, we interpret that, oh, this person disrespecting me. He's disrespecting me. Now, if you lived in a country where you feel that you have never gotten any respect, for over 400 years, we've been the most disrespected people in history. So there's a lot of baggage and a lot of trauma that comes along that. So in our head, when we get in a situation, damn, this person disrespected me. It's a trigger. It creates a trauma response in many of us, not all of us, because matter of fact, not even most of us, but too many of us. We have that trauma response and we lash out. And before you know it, a small, simple situation gets escalated into a confrontation. And sometimes these confrontations end up violently. Sometimes these confrontations end up with people losing their lives. It happens all the time. Don't believe me? Look at the news. Look, I was looking at a story the other day. A guy got killed, got shot because he was in an argument with his friend over who's the best between LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Like for real, somebody lost their life over a debate over who is best, LeBron James or Michael Jordan. For the record, it's Michael Jordan, but that is beside the point. But no, all that is something was triggered. Within that discussion, it got heated. Somebody raised their voice, said something in a way that, you felt disrespected. And now, boom, went from 0 to 100, just like that. And if both individuals are having triggered trauma responses, then boom, it's a nigga moment that the Boondocks talks about. What's up, Queen T. Jones? How you doing? Free the land to you, sister. Good to see you checking in. So that's what's happening in our community way too often. So the first step is becoming aware. Becoming aware of our triggers. Becoming aware that something's going on. Something actually going on with me. This ain't just natural. This ain't normal. I'm not in control of this. Because like I said, a lot of us just walking around going through life on autopilot. We are responding to things, but we're not necessarily in control. We're not making a conscious response to things. We're not responding to things consciously. We're just having emotional responses to things. We're having triggers that come at us and we're just reacting to it. That's the word I'm looking for. We're reacting to things. We're not thinking about it. We're not, planning out our moves. We're just having a reaction to it. And when you've been traumatized, that is a detrimental thing. So you got to be aware. You have to become aware. It's this thing, in fact, I think it's in Buddhism, but it's been adopted in a lot of mental health um, programs. It's called being mindful, mindfulness. And basically what that means is becoming aware of every thought, every emotion, every feeling that you have, becoming aware of that. Somebody said something and it pissed you off, instead of just reacting, you sit back and be like, dang, I just got mad. And a technique that works, that really works, is whenever, you going through something like that and you have that emotion or you have that trigger, take a time and start asking yourself questions. Just ask yourself questions. Somebody said something happened, something, and it just, you ready to, before you just take a second and be like, hold on, what just happened? I got mad. Why did I get mad? I got mad because this person said this to me. Okay, why did that make me mad? Because I felt it was disrespectful. Why did I feel it was disrespectful? Well, I felt it was disrespectful because they said it like this. If you keep on asking yourself questions like that, you just keep on asking yourself questions like this, you'll start to see what actually happened for what it is and not for how your mind interpreted it. Because the way trauma works is a trigger. What a trigger is something that reminds you of the original thing that traumatized you. So like if you're a woman and you was assaulted by a man when you was young and it created trauma within you, then the next time a man talks to you in a certain way, then it reminds you of what happened to you when you was traumatized, and it could set you off. In just day-to-day conversation, somebody could just challenge you on something. It could be completely innocent, but because they challenged you and they was a male or whatever, it reminded you of being trauma and it set you off. So by taking that pause and asking yourself all of these questions, you can the majority, probably 90% of the time, you'll realize, you know what? This situation that I'm about to react to, that I'm about to go off and snap and chop somebody's head off over, is not even the same situation that I'm thinking about. I'm looking at it the wrong way. This person wasn't even being disrespectful to me. I just interpreted it that way. Or I don't know if this person was being disrespectful or not, because I don't really know their intention. I just assumed that they were. I assigned certain emotions and attributes to what that person did because it reminded me of that time in which I was traumatized. So that's the first step to really dealing with this, because we got to get ourselves right. If we want to really engage in the act of nation building, of freeing the land, of taking back our communities, then we have to get ourselves right. What you saying up there, Queen T. Jones? Yes, we have to learn our triggers and manage our reactions to situations that stem from our traumas, especially among our youth. Absolutely correct. I'm with you 1,000% on that, because that's what's happening, within our communities. First, we don't understand what's really going on. We're not aware, because and like I said, this happens all of the time, and we can see, and you can actually see people. We all know people who really been traumatized. We know people who really been traumatized. We know that girl or that sister or that brother, that we either work with or we in contact with all the time. And we really don't even like to ask them to do anything because the smallest thing could set them off. It's almost like they just waiting for you to say the wrong thing to them. You don't even want to say anything to them. You don't even want to talk to them because you say the wrong thing is on. It's on. So we have to learn our triggers and learn how to manage our reaction. Really, you don't even need to react. Need to respond. We need to respond. And like I said, the first step is to become aware. You have to be aware of your triggers. You have to be able to de-escalate things in your own head so you can see things clearly, because that's what trauma does. It put blinders over your eyes, and it makes you see things through the lens of your trauma. So you're not actually seeing the world as it exists right now. You're seeing the world as through the lens of your trauma, through that traumatic experience that you've been through, that you endured. You know, I used this example before. A lot of times, like, you have babies who might be on the side of the bed or wherever, and for whatever reason, they fall off the bed, hit the floor, boom, cry, because in the baby's mind, man, they almost died or they're about to die, great harm is about to come to them, even though they just fell off the bed. Well, for a lot of us, when this happens to us as a baby, it traumatizes us. This experience traumatizes us. And when you grow up, even though you don't even remember falling off the bed as a baby, that memory is gone, but your mind records it. Your mind recorded the trauma. Your mind recorded everything about it. Your mind recorded what everything looked like, what everything smelled like, what everything felt like, how you being up, because in your head, you was way in the air because you're a baby. You was high in the air and you fell. And your mind recorded that. So now when you get to be an adult, whenever you're in a situation where you're in the air again, whether it's on some stairs or wherever, once you get to a certain height, that trigger response, that trauma response just kicks in. Your mind says, danger, danger, danger. You're in danger because you're reminded of that trauma, even though you don't even remember it. That's why you have people with these severe fear of heights, because something happened that they don't even remember. They don't even know happened to. I saw a sister the other day, got on a flight of stairs, and the area that she wasn't expecting it to look this way. You could see straight down to the bottom, and she just froze. Like, no, she couldn't move, was paralyzed from fear of heights. Wasn't even up that high, but it was a fear. That's trauma. That's how trauma works. So we got to become aware of that. We got to be able to just deconstruct what's actually going on. We got to be able to look at the situation and be like, okay, what's happening? I'm afraid. Why am I afraid? Because I'm up high. Why does that make me afraid? Because I think I'm gonna fall out. I'm gonna fall and die. Why do I think I'm gonna fall and die? If you keep on deconstructing these things, you can come to the rational conclusion of, wait a minute, I'm actually not in the situation that I believe that I'm in. I think because I'm up high, I'm about to die and everything's about to fall just any second now. That's what my mind is telling me, but that's not the reality. That's not the reality. So being able to become aware of what's going on, why you're actually feeling it, you can take some of the power away from what's triggering you. And that's just the first part to it. And I'm not gonna get deep into it because I'm not a psychologist. I ain't gonna lie, I'm not. We just been through some things and had to deal with some things, and found a couple of things that work. If it worked for me, it might work for you. Maybe not. But hey, each one teach one. But this is mindfulness technique. It actually came from Buddhist technique. This is about basically being aware of what you're thinking, and actually it's all about gaining control over your mind. Because ultimately, we're talking about nation building. We're talking about taking control over our communities, taking control over our families, community, nation, and race? Well, first thing we have to take control over is our minds. We have to take control over our thinking. Because if you don't, then that makes you susceptible to manipulation. That makes you susceptible to being controlled by outside forces. And believe it or not, people do that all the time. People in power do that all the time. They prey on the emotions of the people. They prey on the trauma of the people in order to get you to move and do certain things. That's why, I always say, if it's anything that I would teach anybody, it will be the ability to do critical analysis, the ability to look at a situation, break it down for what it actually is, not for what you think, not for what you feel in your heart, because your emotions will lead you astray. Not saying emotions are bad, but you are supposed to control your emotions. And for the most part, we allow our emotions to control us. The emotions are evolutionary adaptations that came about in order to help us survive. That's what emotions are for. Prime example, things that help you survive make you happy. General, when you eat, you get happy. Because historically, back to like our ancient ancestors, gaining food, that was a very important part of survival. When you were in a hunter-gatherer stage, getting food is a very important part of survival. So, hey, when you get food, you got happy. It's a good feeling. And that kind of encourages us to go out and get more. Things that were a threat to our survival that make us feel sad or make us angry or make us upset. Because just the law of nature tells us, these things that are a threat to your survival, either remove them or get away from them. But, that is what that is. But like I said, I'm not going to really be on too long today. Because like I said, I really, I came here, I didn't really just know what I wanted to talk about. But I do want to make sure that I'm always continuing the show, keep it on until my comrade gets back. But like I said, man, if it's anything in particular y'all want to talk about, any particular subject that just itching y'all, drop a comment. I'll do my due diligence. I'll research it. I have perspectives on it. And we can carry that conversation and continue the conversation. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in, for conversing with me tonight. Man, it's summertime. It's the summertime. Well, summer has not officially started, but y'all have an opportunity, man. Get out on the land, grow y'all some food, create a home garden, a backyard garden, porch garden. Get you some grow lights, grow you some kale or spinach in the house. Let's do something. Let's get into that practice of doing for self. Get with a couple of comrades. Say, okay, you're gonna grow some cucumbers. I'll grow some okra and some peas, and you grow, whatever it is. See, can we put a dent in some of the Kroger bills, in the dependency on our enemy to feed us? Started, at a small scale, because things develop from the simple to the complex. We don't necessarily have to start with a gigantic farm, even though that's the goal. That is the goal. You want to be able to grow enough food to feed our entire nation. That's what we're trying to do. But got to be able to start with, hey, let's grow enough to try to feed a household, a family, a community, and grow from that and just be consistent. and we can do it. I think this is just how we have to begin to start thinking. And I know I just switched subjects real quick, but this is how we got to start thinking. In nation building, it's one step at a time, brick by brick. You don't have to start with your entire nation right off. You don't have to start with an entire grocery store right off. You don't have to start with an entire school system right off, or entire bank right off. Start small and grow. Now, if we have the resources to do it on a bigger scale, then by all means, let's do it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's make it happen. But if we don't have those resources right off, start with where we are. That's what I always. I'm a videographer. I do videos, music videos, and whatnot. And people always ask me, man, I want to do this. Where do I start? Why do I need to start? What kind of camera do I need to do? What? And they always, trying to wonder how much money you need to invest. And I always tell them, like, no, you got a phone, you got a camera on it. Start right there. Start right there with your phone. Get you a editing app and start with the footage that you have on your phone. In that way, you're doing one of the most important steps. You're learning and you grow. And once you learn some more, you get familiar with the process, that will tell you what you actually need to get. But a lot of times we want to start with we got to start with everything already just in place. Start with everything already in place. A lot of people go that I know, they be like, man, I invest in a big, $5,000 camera and this much equipment and all of this. And then they get back to using it and their product look like crap. The stuff look really bad. And I tell them, I be like, well, man, you know what? And they asked me, they was like, well, man, what did you do, man? Because your film look good. Your videos look good, And I tell them, I was like, well, bro, it ain't, it ain't about what you buy. It's about, what you know. That's why I like saying, start off with what you have. Then you can learn, you can build your knowledge up. And then you can know what you actually need to get, opposed to just buying something. And now you got to learn how to use it. Start from the simple to the complex, Start from something simple and let it grow. And Queen T. Jones, for real, everything starts at home. The food, the education, the self-sufficiency, and building within our families. Exactly. See, Queen, you get it. You understand. That's what it is. Everything starts at home. When you look at the Nguzo Saba, when you look at the New African Creed, when you look at all of these things, it always starts from family, community, nation, and race. It always starts with the family. But like I said, I appreciate y'all tuning in to me. Just gonna do a quick hour and be out. Make sure y'all join NABA for all of our programs. Well, I think next week, Melly Queen gonna start back with the what's the name of that? What else show? My bad. The Truth and Power Corner. And join us Sunday for the Voices of New Africa. Definitely wanna see that. But I'm gonna be out. Love y'all. Free the land. See y'all again next week, fam.
Africa. My name is Kwaku DC, and I'm one of the brothers on John's Island here.
Okay.
And what I do a combination of things, but I participate in a lot of Afrocentric programs and to help wake our people up. A lot of people don't know. and trying to make us a better people and be the people that we're supposed to be. Understand that this is a tree that our ancestors, who was on John's Island, the tree was a place that we buried our people, had ceremonies around this tree in order to honor our ancestors.